Alright, in today's video, let's talk about everything you need to know where you just get started with weighted calisthenics and weighted pull-ups specifically. If this is the kind of stuff that you really find interesting, I've got a lot of videos talking about weighted calisthenics on my YouTube channel. And if you're looking for online coaching, link is down below in the description. But without further ado, let's get into this video, starting off with talking about the competition standard for weighted pull-ups. It's really important to start off this video with this, since everything else that I'm going to talk about in today's video has to fit within this rule book. And Micha Schutz, a German guy who does a lot of weighted calisthenics, made a video about this a couple of weeks ago. Gonna probably put this on screen, but these are the 3 things that make your weighted pull-up a valid rep. If you have to start off with completely straight arms before pulling yourself up. You have to pull yourself up until your chin is vertically above the bar, and you're not allowed to use any momentum from your shoulders or your hips. When you abide by these rules, your rep will be valid in a competition, and it makes quite a lot of sense to train with that same standard. Now then, obviously, one of the first things people want to talk about when they get into weighted pull-ups is, should you be doing chin-ups or weighted pull-ups? So essentially, do you want to use a supinated or a pronated grip? Now, the rules that I just talked about actually allow both, and even though every single world record has been pulled with a pronated grip, and it makes a lot more sense to use that grip for programming based reasons, I'm not going to tell you which grip to choose. I'm just going to give you the pros and cons of both and allow you to make your own decision. Let's talk about the pros of a pronated grip. Now, first and foremost, the initial pull is much easier. You also need a lot less shoulder mobility to do this compared to weighted chin-ups. You also need a lot less elbow and shoulder flexion to reach full range of motion, according to the guidelines that I talked about earlier, which gives you a lot more potential to get a stronger pull-up further down the line. And that's why some people refer to weighted pull-ups as the sumo deadlift of weighted calisthenics, since the range of motion is drastically shorter when you use a pronated grip compared to a supinated grip. The only con is that the lockout of a weighted pull-up is substantially harder to grind through than the lockout of a weighted chin-up. And this brings us to the pros and cons of a supinated grip. Now, the biggest benefit of chin-ups is that the lockout is much easier to grind through, but just reversing the pros of the weighted pull-up will give you all of the cons of weighted chin-ups. You need a lot more shoulder mobility to perform weighted chin-ups compared to weighted pull-ups. You also need to go through much more shoulder and elbow flexion to complete a single repetition, and the carryover to muscle-ups is substantially less. So from this point on, I'm gonna allow you to make your own choice. Now, if you want to know my advice, I would highly recommend you guys to use a pronated grip, simply because in my opinion it just simply works a lot better. I personally find that I'm a lot stronger, especially in the initial phase of the pull-up with a pronated grip, and it just generally feels better on my shoulders and my elbows, because I've done weighted chips in the past and they simply don't feel comfortable, which is why I've actually stuck to weighted pull-ups for the last couple of years. And then let's talk about grip width, or essentially how wide you should actually grip the bar in order to have the best weighted pull-up. The rules allow you to grab the bar as wide or as narrow as you want, so there really are no guidelines here, but just like pronated versus supinated grip, there are some pros and cons that you have to keep in mind. In theory, you want to grab the bar as wide as you can possibly go, because that will drastically reduce range of motion, therefore making it much easier. However, the wider you actually grip the bar, the harder it is to use your lats properly, therefore drastically cutting into your maximal force production. Most people will grab the bar a little bit wider than shoulder width, simply because it is by far the most comfortable and it allows you to use your lats properly. Now let's talk about your technique on weighted pull-ups and essentially how to perform a weighted pull-up from bottom to top and back. Now, I'm essentially going to give you some cues here to really get your basic technique to be absolutely solid. Now, like we talked about in the beginning of the video, you have to start off from a dead hang with your arms straight. Now, from the first second, I want you to really have full body tension, so make sure that you actually squeeze your legs and your abdominals, because this is going to prevent energy leaks further down the line. Then one more thing, I want you to look up before actually initiating the pull, since this will get you to slightly arch your back, making the lift off substantially easier. Then once you initiate the movement, I want you to pull up as explosively as possible, keeping the elbows below the wrist and really focusing on pulling your elbows down and back, because this will allow you to use your lats properly. As you do this, you have to maintain full body tension, so really try to squeeze your legs and your abs while you're doing so, and you might have to push the weight slightly forward with your legs to keep the center of mass below the bar, ensuring that you have an efficient pull up. Now, once you reach the lockout, you have to have your chin above the bar every single time, maintaining full body tension from top to bottom. So also here you're going to be squeezing your abdominals and your legs. Once again, maybe have a little bit of flexion in the hips to keep the center of mass below the bar. And then from there, you're going to lower the weight down in a controlled fashion. No need to slow things down drastically, but just make sure that you don't completely drop yourself down. And then I'm going to finish off this video talking about how to do weighted pull-ups without a weighted belt. Never thought I would have to address this in this video, but people search for this on YouTube, so I might as well address it in this video. Now, can you do weighted pull-ups without a belt? Yes. Should you? I don't think so. It's kind of like walking around in public naked. Yes, you can, but it's really not ideal. And the fact that you even asked the question like, should I use a weighted belt, pretty much tells me that you are a beginner, because every single person that is serious about weighted pull-ups will buy himself or herself a weighted belt. You can literally buy weighted belts online for like 15 to 20 euros and like save yourself the ball ache of squeezing like dumbbells or weighted plates between your legs. And for all of you guys saying like, well, they don't hold that much weight, once again, the fact they're even asking this question tells me you're a beginner, and when you're a beginner, you don't need weighted belts to hold 80 kilograms. So you'll be absolutely fine using weight belts that can only hold up to 20-30 kilograms. And that is pretty much all I want to talk about in today's video. This is everything that you need to know in regards to weighted pull-ups, especially if you just start out. If you have any more questions, leave them down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and share the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Latest.